Happy Wednesday. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Cherie Sauer. I am the co-owner of Success Without Sacrifice. I'm a life and business coach. We help business owners really scale without burnout, without the exhaustion and the stress. I have Misty Springer on here with me. Misty, I will let you introduce yourself. We are just having Candid Convos. This is our Candid Conversations. We do it once a week on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for about 15 minutes. Usually we have Tanya on with us, Tanya Goodall-Smith with Work Story Creative, but she is not able to join us today. So Misty, I will let you introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks, Cherie. Happy to be here. I'm Misty Springer. I'm a life and business coach as well. And I just get down into the deep stuff of what is holding us back from creating what we want. Oops. So hold on. My phone rang and I hit the wrong button.
Oh no.
I answered it instead of hanging up. I've been getting tons of spam call lately. I don't know if I got on a list or something, but anyway, happy to be here. Feeling a little bleary-eyed after a sleepless night, and I have a very, very needy dog at my feet.
Aww.
My husband is out of town, and he adores my husband, and so he has just not literally glued next to my side the entire morning.
Oh, poor doggy. That's so funny. We had a dog a couple of years ago, and it was attached to me. And every time I would leave, it would just sit by the door and just whine and whimper. And it was so annoying. Now we have a cat. It's actually Hudson's cat, and the cat is attached to Matt. It's like sits on his shoulder.
Wow.
Now wants to be pet, and he can hold her. But if anybody else tries to pick her up and give her attention, she just is not interested. She doesn't. It's so funny that way.
Yeah, they're people.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Well, we just want to kind of open the conversation about what happens when you make a commitment to something that feels really aligned, and then all of a sudden your schedule changes or life changes, especially I think as women who are business owners who have spouses that are maybe the breadwinners, work full-time. Our schedules sometimes get put on the back burner. And I know that's true for me and my own life, and my husband's job is a priority because it's the main income for our family. And so that means that I end up taking on a lot of responsibilities and things. And so it's how do you juggle all that? How do you make a commitment? And then all of a sudden schedule changes and you have to learn to pivot. And so how do you know when to say yes? How do you know when to change when you've said yes and you've committed to something? And how do you go about that? And so for me, in my own life, and really what I teach people is have a really clear understanding of what your values and your priorities are, so that when a commitment is presented to you, when something is presented to you, you can say yes, this is the right time, or no, it's not. And even if you do say yes and it does feel aligned at that time, but something changes, how do you know, do I keep my commitment to this, or do I have to back out? And the reality is sometimes we have to change and we have to back out if it no longer feels aligned or it doesn't work. And so one of the things for this, for us coming together and doing this, it's a fun thing for us to do, that we just wanted to do and have conversations, but it's not necessarily the main priority for all of our businesses. And so when it comes down to a schedule changing or family stuff happens, we sometimes have to look at and go, okay, what needs to get removed off of my calendar right now in this season? Because we have seasons in our life. And just because something is good in one season doesn't mean it's good in another season. And so how do we make those decisions? And for me, and for what I teach, is if you have a clear understanding of what your values and your priorities are in your personal life and in your business, it's going to be a lot easier for you to determine what what needs to get removed from your calendar when those situations come up.
Absolutely.
Misty, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you go about that?
I think that that's just an amazing exercise to go through, is what are my values and priorities, and where does this align? I think so. For me, one of the practices that I have and that I take my clients through is just finding what your gut is telling you. Trusting your gut, trusting intuition, trusting the yes in your body and following those breadcrumbs of yes, creating an aligned life that feels peaceful and abundant and spacious, and that it gets to be all of it. And part of that is being willing to say no. And I think no is, one of the things that I think is so powerful about the word no. I've heard it said, no is a sentence. There can be a period at the end, meaning it just is no. It just is a no. Um, and that also is a shift when, oftentimes I'm asking myself the question, is this coming from love or fear? Right? Am I not showing up because I am like, you can take this two ways, right? Am I not showing up because I'm afraid, because I don't want to put myself out there? Or am I not showing up because I love myself enough to recognize that this is not a priority for me right now? And also, am I saying no? Am I able to step away? Is this coming from love or fear, right? Am I afraid to say, you know what, I need to take a step back because I'm afraid of looking bad if I made it a commitment and then I don't stand up for that? Or is it that I love myself enough to say, yeah, that's uncomfortable, but I trust myself enough to know that this is what I need to do? And I had a friend of mine ask me recently, she was just brainstorming some ideas on a panel that she was a part of. And it was, where have you found peace in your life and how do you access that? And I believe that that peace really does come from that knowing, um, that gut response. Like, yes, this is uncomfortable. Yes, this isn't, what I thought it was going to be. And yes, it's right for me to step away. And that piece, not necessarily in the action of stepping away, but in the knowing that it's the right thing, is a big, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah, and the what you talked about with the fear, is this like a fear decision, or from a place of love, and that fear, that guilt, that people pleasing, other people's expectations, other obligations that we have, from a burnout perspective. This is huge. Of a lot of times people are saying yes because of what other people expect of them, or people pleasing, or there's a fear that people aren't going to like them, or they're going to judge them, or there's all these different things. And then when we make a commitment and we have to back out, that's that's even a bigger piece of that. And so how do you determine really like how to say no? And so what you were talking about, Misty, of like asking that question of, am I making this decision from fear, or am I making this decision from love, or honoring myself, or honoring my family, honoring how much energy and capacity I have to give to people? Because we only have so much energy we can give out, and we have to determine at the end of the day where that energy is going to get given. And if you give all of your energy and your time and your yeses to or out of fear, obligation, expectation, people pleasing, there's nothing left for you, and or there's nothing left for your family. And so then we're not able to really show up the way that we need to for those who are most important to us. But there's so much fear in that. And the reality is if we just communicate with people and say, hey, this is what's going on, I'm really sorry, I know I made this commitment, this is what's happened, and like now I need to change, pivot. And most people are going to be like, oh my gosh, like not a problem. Right? Like people are really understanding, unless you just don't show up and you totally ghost them, right? That's a problem. That's not
Mhm.
communication. That's avoidance. And so it really just comes down to communicating with other people about what's going on with your life, and part of that, like vulnerability too, right? Like
Mhm.
you don't have to give people all the details about what's going on to be able to back out of a commitment or to say no, but it does help. I think ease the process for people to understand of like this is what happened,
Mhm.
um, and yeah, I think especially as women, um, I feel like even probably more so than men. And I don't know if it's just because we are taught to uh, like be servant leaders. I think we're servant leaders at like naturally, but we're taught to serve everybody else's needs. And society often tells us that serving our own needs is selfish, which is not true. And I think even in the church, this is like a big thing too, right? Of like Jesus was a servant leader and he washed other people's feet. And yes, and also he rested. He went to the
Mhm.
mountains and went away from people and he rested. And so I think, especially as believers, as Christians, this can be even harder for people, especially when it comes to volunteering and making commitments. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But knowing there's a season and there's good things and there's good and there's like best, right? And so
Mhm.
just because something is good doesn't mean that God is saying that you should say yes to it. Uh,
Mhm.
and really and so for me, that's really come down to like praying and asking, like, okay, God, like, is this something that you want me to do?
Mhm.
Sometimes God's going to push us out of our comfort zone and ask us to do things in our overwhelm to help push us and grow. But you have to have that like understanding, like you were saying, Misty, like that gut intuition or however like you hear from God, whatever that looks like. um and for me, it's like a journaling process, not as much of like a gut intuition. Like I have to get really quiet and I have to journal because my brain, my everything going on in my head like overtakes everything. And so understanding like how you function and how you work, and if you're not a believer, then that doesn't align for you and that's okay. But oh man, there goes my camera. Oh, it came back. Yay.
Mhm.
But there's this, oh my goodness, what is happening with my, yeah. So I think, and Misty, I'll let you talk on this too, but I think as uh, believers, this is even a harder thing because we're taught to just like lay our lives down and serve. But that doesn't mean that we're not also supposed to rest, because you can only give out so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was just having this conversation with a group of women last night, young moms who were just trying to do it all, just had so much on their plates and what they were trying to manage and juggle. And how do we juggle everything that's coming at us, be a servant leader, be there for our families, be there in the work that we want to bring to the world, be there for our spouses. It's just be there for my dog that's at my feet right now. Like, how do we show up fully resourced to do that? And I think one of the things that really stops us as women is our own expectations.
Mhm.
I don't think that God is asking us to run faster than we have strength. I don't think he's asking us to push ourselves to the limits. Every single time that not every single time, but multiple times we see that when Christ was about to go and perform a miracle, before that miracle, he was off by himself. He was
Yeah.
resting. And that is the gift of an abundant universe. Whether you believe that God and Christ are a part of your story, or you believe that the universe is providing for us, when I think about how nature works, just the power that is inherently in creation, everything is a process of giving and receiving. Like, one of the things that I do often with my clients is I do a lot of breath work. And one of the breath work practices that I do is say, okay, let's treat giving as exhaling and receiving as inhaling. right? So you receive, inhale, and you give as exhale. Right? Now, if we have this belief, it's our own expectation that I just need to give, exhale, give again, exhale, give more, exhale, give more, exhale, give more, exhale, give more, exhale, right? Like what happens is we run out of air. There's nothing left for us to give. And so we have to, and at that point, the receiving doesn't even feel like an option. It just feels like we're gulping in the air because we've given so much. But it's such a beautiful representation of sometimes what we do in our life where we think that that is what God is asking or what we should be doing, or it's the right way to do it, to just give, 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 give. But it actually is not even the way that we're designed. We are designed to give and then receive and give. In fact, the receiving comes first. We have to receive before we can give. And so I think that for me, as I've helped my clients and myself navigate this journey, it has been about where are my expectations and the voice that I'm putting not accurate.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And it's funny because I say like society, but you're right. I don't even know if it's society. I mean, I think there's like things that we hear, and so we take those on as our own truth when in reality they're not. And maybe they are truth for somebody else, but they're not truth for us.
Exactly.
And I can't remember if I've shared that on here, but I've shared this a lot. But when I was a stay-at-home mom, I felt like I was constantly like giving, and I didn't know how to receive. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I was really good at taking care of the healthcare provider, taking care of everybody else. I didn't know how to take care of me. And also in that season of that expectation of, I had the expectation of who I was supposed to be as a mom and how I was supposed to show up. And a lot of that was based on what I saw other people do. And so I was trying to be what other people were being, the type of mom that other people were being, what I thought was a good mom. And what that did, it was completely out of alignment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me a very high stress, reactive person that was not kind to my children. And all because of my own expectation on myself of what I thought a good mom should be and how I should show up. And so for those of you listening, watching, would just love for you to put in the chat and where do you struggle with this? Like, what are your how do you determine your yes and your no, or what gets in the way for you? Is it fear? Is it people pleasing? Is it not really being in alignment with your values and your priorities? We would love to hear. These are the conversations that we are having. So we are doing the Align Gathering once a month. We just had our first one. Was that last week? Last week.
I think it was, yeah. It was last Thursday night.
So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Our next one will be March 28th. But Misty, I would love to hear, like, what did you love about our first gathering? What was kind of your takeaway?
I loved that the women who were there wanted a different kind of connection, that they were there it wasn't just about meeting people or sharing about what they did. Everybody that was there was there because they wanted to create authentic relationships. And what I found fascinating was that they all kind of showed up for different reasons. They were all a little bit tentative, but by the end, every single one of them was saying, when can we do this again? Yeah. And I think that is like, it takes a lot of courage to come to something where you're not really sure what it's going to look like. And you're like, oh, like authentic communication and conversation with other women. Like, oh, that sounds a little scary, sounds a little vulnerable. And yet it is one of our basic human needs: love, connection, and belonging. Basic human need. And so the women that were there, when they got a taste of what it was that could be created and cultivated in that space, it was like their whole body and soul just craved more. Because I think it is just a part of who we are. We want two things that I thought were so powerful about the group: the connection, the real connection with other women, and how quickly that was created, because of the environment that was cultivated there. Like, that was very intentional on our part. That didn't just happen. And secondly, that they were that we crave growth. I think every single one of us is designed to grow. That is a part of our very makeup. And so when we are in a setting that feels authentic and safe and promotes growth, it feels like coming home to yourself in a really beautiful way. And we crave more. We want more of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know that I have anything different to add. It was funny because people were like, "What is this?" Like they were like, "Okay, I'm going to show up. I'm here, but like, what is this? What's this all about?" I'm like, "Well, you're going to find out." And yeah, it was. We had probably about 15 women,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what I loved is that, I don't know, I just love. I love like connection. I love networking. I love networking. I'm at like all the networking events, but there's only so much you can do in networking. It's like, this is who I am and this is what I do. Whereas this is a deeper, it's not about networking. It's not even about growing our businesses. It's really about growing ourselves and having those deeper connections. And I love hearing other people share their takeaways or their ahas. That's like always my favorite thing from every gathering or retreat, is hearing people's takeaways, because it's like just a short period of time. We were together for what, 2 hours total. The change that people can have in their lives, I think, is what I love the most. And just getting to really like connect with women on a vulnerable, like authentic level. Like there's no masks. This is who we are, and we're not trying to portray something that we're not. And that's what I really love.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next one, like I mentioned, will be March 28th. Put it on your calendar. I am going to create a Facebook group that's going to be informational only. It's not going to be like, we're not trying to engage and do a bunch of stuff in there. It's literally just so everybody can.
I know. The women were like, "Can we have a Facebook group?" We're like, "Okay."
Just to keep everybody up to date on the events that are happening, allow people to connect within there if they want to. So I will get that created, and then I will put in the comments. I have to create our next event. So these are going to be monthly on the fourth Thursday of every single month, is our plan right now, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So if you're interested in that, you want to hear more, you're not sure, drop in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get you that information. But other than that, I think that's a close for today, Misty, unless you have anything else.
Nope. Great
Okay.
conversation as always. Thanks, Cherie.
Yeah, sorry, my camera shut off again, everybody. One of these days I'll get this figured. I have to make it. I talk about priorities over to-do lists. And this week, my priority is going to be to clean my computer, then clean up the storage on my computer. So hopefully my camera will start working.
We can hope.
Yes. All right, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.